let's talk about one of the most powerful ideas the human mind has ever come up with. It's something you see, or rather don't see, every single day and probably never think twice about it. Nothing. Yep, today we are digging into the incredible story of the number zero, the invisible force that, believe it or not, runs our entire modern world. There is this fantastic quote by the mathematician Robert Kaplan that just nails it. If you look at zero, you see nothing, but look through it and you will see the world. And that idea is really going to frame our whole journey today, because zero isn't just an empty space. It's more like a lens that helps us make sense of reality itself. And seriously, that is not an exaggeration. Think about it. From the binary code that's spelling out the word zero on your screen right now, to the mind-boggling emptiness of space that defines our entire universe, this concept of nothing is literally the invisible foundation we've built our lives on. It's the silent partner to the number one in the language of our digital age. So where in the world did this powerful idea of nothing even come from? I mean, it wasn't always around. The story of zero is this amazing adventure that crosses thousands of years and multiple cultures. It shows how a simple little idea grew into a cornerstone of human knowledge. Okay, so our story kicks off about 5,000 years ago in ancient Sumer, which is basically modern-day Iraq. And, like a lot of brilliant inventions, the idea of zero didn't start with some philosopher staring at the stars. Nope, it came from a very real, very practical, everyday need. So you've got the Sumerians, right? They're building this incredible civilization with all this complex trade and government. By about 2000 BCE, their number system was pretty slick. But as their world got bigger, so did their numbers. And that started to cause some major problems. And the solution, well, it didn't just appear overnight. It took centuries to figure out. The heart of their problem was their super complicated counting system. They were juggling a mix of base 10, like we use, and base 60. Base 60 is actually great for dividing things up, which is why we still use it for time and for angles on a circle. But trying to make those two systems work together, it was a total headache, especially for the people trying to keep the book straight. Their solution was just brilliant in how simple it was. It wasn't actually a number, it was a symbol, just two little slanted wedges pressed into a clay tablet. And all it meant was, hey, there's nothing in this column. It was a placeholder, just a simple trick to keep from getting confused. And right there, that was the very first glimmer of the idea of zero. Okay, so from Mesopotamia, the idea starts to travel, and it makes its way to ancient Greece. But this is where the story takes a really weird turn. Some of the greatest thinkers in all of history got so close to the concept of zero, but then they just rejected it, for some really fascinating philosophical reasons. The ancient Greeks were totally fine with big, huge, massive things. I mean, you had thinkers like Archimedes who were coming up with systems to name ridiculously large numbers, like a myriad myriads. They had no problem at all with the concept of infinity. But here's the crazy part. While they could totally wrap their heads around the infinitely large, they just couldn't deal with its opposite, nothingness. Their whole philosophy, especially Aristotle's idea that nature abhors a vacuum, was a huge roadblock. To them, for something to exist, it had to have a name, it had to have a form. But how do you give a name to no thing? So after that near miss in Greece, the idea of zero finds a new home over in India. And it's here, in India, that it goes through its biggest change yet. It evolves from just being a simple placeholder into a truly revolutionary mathematical idea. This is a huge moment in history. The first written proof of zero as its own symbol that we've ever found, a small dot or a circle, shows up on a stone tablet in India. It's dated to 876 AD. And you can see it right there, numbers like 270 and 50, written with a symbol for zero that we'd recognize in a heartbeat today. So what made this huge breakthrough possible? Well, a big clue is actually in the language. The Indian mathematician Aryabhata used the Sanskrit word ka, which means place or emptiness. This one word was basically the key. It was the conceptual bridge they needed to start thinking of nothingness as a something. And this was the giant leap forward. Back in Mesopotamia, zero was the mark of the empty. It was a placeholder. But in India, it became the empty mark, a symbol that was a number that represented absence. That difference seems small, but it's massive. One is just a tool. The other is a full-fledged number with the same status as 1 or 2 or 3.
And just like that, 0 got its iconic shape, a simple circle. It was finally a number in its own right, something you could use in calculations, something that had its own critical spot in the number system. This incredibly elegant solution was about to change the entire course of science and civilization.
So we followed zero's journey from a handy mark on a clay tablet all the way to a profound number. But its ancient history brings up a really deep question, one we still argue about today, about what knowledge even is. I mean, the impact of this one idea is, well, it's almost impossible to measure. Without zero, you can just forget about calculus, the math that describes motion and change, by looking at what happens when things get closer and closer to zero. Our digital world? Impossible. It's built on a language of just ones and zeros. Its influence even pops up in culture. Shakespeare described an empty feeling as being like an O without a figure. And this brings us right back to that fundamental question. Was zero a discovery? Like gravity, a universal truth that was just out there waiting for us to find it? Or was it an invention, a brilliant tool, like the wheel, that we created to help us understand the world better? We've seen the incredible human creativity and ingenuity that shaped this idea over thousands of years. But does that mean we invented it? Or were we just finally finding the right language to describe a fundamental piece of reality that was there all along? It's a question that really makes you think about math and about what it even means to discover something. So, what do you think?